everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
And I'm Chris Yee.
Today we're taking a look at a game called Bordeaux. Well, this is not a game. This is an expansion for a very, very popular game called Viticulture. This is an expansion that surprised me when it came out, not because the game, I think, Viticulture already has a bunch of expansions. Mm-hmm. In fact, Viticulture is a little bit confusing. The Viticulture came out, then they came out with a very big modular expansion called Tuscany. Then they came out with Essential Viticulture, which took some of the stuff from Tuscany and put it in the base game. Then they came out with Essential Tuscany, where they cut out all the stuff no one ever played with. And so now Essential Viticulture is pretty much the only viticulture you can buy.
I think we've gotten past the point where it's confusing because people just go into the store now, go, Viticulture Essential Edition, sweet. Oh, Tuscany Essential Edition. Those are the only two basic products out in the viticulture world.
Viticulture world, which turns it into a cooperative game.
And now this one.
So this one surprised me, though, because this one, they're like, the board is 4 seasons. And I was like, well, I thought...
So was Tuscany, yeah.
Tuscany already did that. But not a lot of people have bought Tuscany, and that's not in the base game. But this is also a very different board. Let me show you. Players will now take their turn order, and you'll notice there's 7 different ones. Although if you take the 7th one, then that's the only way to get up into this first slot. But when you go through the seasons, you are either going to place a worker or pass. When you pass, you're going to get a bonus. And so some of the bonuses are pretty easy. Hey, take an extra coin or take another card. You get an extra worker that's only available for this year. You get to move forward one of your grapes, or you get to age all of your grapes. Age one of your wines or age all of your wines. Pull one of your workers back from the fall that you can use again in the winter. Refresh all the green and purple cards. And these help everybody. They're going to give everyone money. Age grapes for everyone and age wines for everybody. But hey, you get to go first. When someone passes in the winter, you'll come down here and just follow this from right to left. Retrieve your workers, age everything, discard down to 7 cards. Collect residual payments and choose wake up position. Speaking of that, this game starts slightly different. You'll notice the residuals payments go up to 7. When you are playing the Bordeaux version here, you are going to start with some changes to the game. Everyone's going to start with, besides the Mama and the Papa's cards, you'll start with 3 euros. You'll start with a 2-value grape, a 1-value wine token. You'll start with 2 structure cards, as it shows here in the book. I mean, 2 of your vineyards sold, so you'll have to be able to buy those back if you want to use them more. And you'll notice residual level 1. So everyone's going to start with a residual level 1, so you'll start making money every round. And when you pass residual from 2 to 3, 4 to 5, and 6 to 7, you will get a point. Now, there are a lot of spaces on the board here, and there are many different things to do, and you're going to have to figure out what to do in each of the seasons. Now, you might be wondering if you've played Tuscany, the expansion, before this. This board is different than that board. So I brought them in to kind of show them off. This is the original board. The original board had an area control map type situation here that gave you bonuses. That is completely gone. You also notice that the wake-up bonuses here, or the passing bonuses from seasons, is remarkably different. But the spaces themselves are also quite different. So focusing here, there's a lot more bonuses, especially on the 2-player dots. Almost all of them have a bonus that you can get. There's also been some changes to the trade action, which you'll notice over here. Whenever you make a trade, you are going to trade one of these things, pay either 2 cards, 3 coins, a point, or a grape, and get one of these, which includes residuals or aging, or getting wines or grapes. But when you do that, you're going to put a token there so that trade can't be made again for the rest of the game. Well, probably. See, there's a new action here called Hire an Expert. And the game comes with cubes for each of the players for this particular action. When you hire an expert, you are going to put a cube on any of the expert spaces on the board. So for example, if I go up here to this first action, which is draw a green card, I can do so. But if I have the expert here, I get a bonus action. And on this one here, I can pay money to get a grape of that level. When I go to the give a tour, I will, get your 2 coins here, plus possible bonuses. Plus, if I have the expert worker, I get an extra worker here. And these bonuses are going to be different all throughout the board. One of my favorites here is the training. When you train someone, you can place the worker immediately in the spring or the summer right now. Or when you sell, you'll get extra points or money, depending if you have a medium or a large seller. And this one here just gives you an extra space to fill orders at the end of the round. Or just take any action, which is, by the way, is a new action for this board, where you pay a coin to take any action on the board, and this lets you refresh the different order cards. A couple other things to note on this board. There are now more places to harvest. Here you can buy, or you can harvest 1 field. Here you can harvest up to 2 fields. So this is a big change, allowing more harvesting to happen. I've already mentioned to take any action here. The winter is pretty close to the same. And then the other things are, like I said, very similar, except you're not selling properties. You just have more spots to plant, building structures, and making trades. Some of these things have also changed from season to season. So that's pretty much what the game includes. There is reference cards, so you know what all the experts do in each of the seasons. And then there's also, as always with a Stonemaier game, Altama. So if you want to play solo, there's a whole section of rules about that.
I honestly thought when I saw this, I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I'll try an alternate board for Tuscany, because with the 4 seasons for me is the only way I'll play Viticulture. I love it so much. I'm not even opposed to the 2 season. It's not like, I like the 4 seasons so much more. I like the idea of putting a worker out and then waiting, but I also like the idea of advancing and getting a bonus sometimes. And the turn order is so much more interesting to me in that board. So the fact that this came out, I was like, oh, it's a different board. And once we went over the rules, I thought, this is really different.
I agree. And to me, it's nice that it doesn't just feel like a slightly alternate board. It feels very different when you look at that turn order tracker that you mentioned, right? The original Viticulture, you pick a turn order and you get 1 bonus. And then in Tuscany, they had this whole spreadsheet where you would kind of advance each season and you get sometimes extra bonuses. Sometimes a bonus along the way. And the way that this one does it, there's something in every single spot.
Yeah, no kidding.
Which is
so fun.
It's very giving and it feels good as a player, even though if you go first, you're not really getting a bonus. You're doing some kind of neutral board game, board cleanup, or
giving
everyone a bonus. And so that's a funny feeling where, I love games where you can choose your turn order on the track. And in this one, you're like, I could go first. I'm really going to weigh the positives and negatives of that, actually.
Well, Chris mentioned giving, and this game definitely does that. It starts you out with a little bit extra money. It starts you out with income, which has never been before. It gives points when you move around the little income circle. It gives you more ways. There's 2 places now, the harvest fields. There's more bonuses on the spots that are out there. There's just more stuff. And to that end, if you're someone who's good at Viticulture, this is going to actually speed the game up for you because you're just getting stuff faster. Mm-hmm. Although I can see some diehard fans of Viticulture, and I don't mean as an insult at all, but I can see some people might miss some of the tension because everything's a little easier. There's now 2 face-up cards, so I'm not stuck with whatever I get. I can pick the card, hopefully that helps me best. There are now more bonuses. There's more money in the game, so just a little easier to play. This is something I love, but I do understand it won't be everyone's cup of tea.
I agree. Some people like this game because of that tension. Like, I only have 3 workers across, especially 4 seasons. Where do I place them out and everything? And then, do I harvest my fields this round? Do I wait until next round to plant more crops and then harvest? And I think that it retains, for my tastes, enough of those tense moments, right?
I agree.
But it gives you a little bit of engine building. This is something that, in some cool ways that have not been in Viticulture before. Going to that spot where you upgrade a location for yourself. I mean, this whole expansion is solo cards, some cubes, and that board. And I think that with just that difference, they made it feel very different. I love upgrading a worker placement spot just for me, and you better believe I'm going to do that a lot, even if it's strategically a little bit like suboptimal. I just want to do it.
Oh, those expert workers are so fun. If you think about it, you're like, I might only use that 4 times over the course of the game, maybe 4 or 5. It depends. But like that, for example, the one I showed you, those trades can only be done 1 time. Well, if I have the expert for that, I can pull that a token off before I make a trade. So I can do a trade multiple times. That just feels cool. And it feels good you're doing something no one else does. You'll be jealous of everyone else's, but also fiercely protective of your own. Like, this is a really great bonus to the point where going to that spot, you're going to end up putting your grade worker there sometimes because you're like, I really want an expert because it helps you out the rest of the game.
I agree. And it's fun. And it's not so loose, in my opinion, that now, like, well, that's the only action I'll do. No, there definitely comes a point in the game where you're like, well, do I actually need any more, expert spots? Not really. Now I can focus on like churning out my engine, or I can focus on using the summer and winter guests or visitors to get those special points that I need to just cross that threshold. It still retains that feeling of racing to 25 points. It just makes the starting experience a little bit smoother. I think it was you who said it kind of feels like a Terraforming Mars Prelude type of expansion, but without making it so obvious. Like, you get these cards, start with these extra things, now go. It's kind of baked into the game in a few more subtle touches.
But I'm okay with a lot of these bigger Euro-style games having a way to speed up those initial turns. This kind of, again, replaces that very first turn of the game. I don't need to worry about getting income. It also makes some other strategies very viable. The strategy of just selling a single wine is now if you get the expert worker there, that's a very strong strategy besides filling the orders. But it doesn't discount the orders. There's just a lot of cool things that can be done. This is really neat. If you don't own Tuscany and you just own Viticulture, I would say you could skip it and get just this. This is cheaper anyway. There's some cool things in Tuscany. There's buildings and there are special workers. But I dare say most people would not miss those. This is the main feature of Tuscany for me. In fact, I won't play Tuscany again. I'm going to play just Viticulture with this. This would be it's fewer rules to teach people, and I would teach this to people even if they had never played Viticulture before.
I think you could. Yeah, I agree with that. I still like, I know you said you'll never play it again. I still like the 2-season board, but...
Sure, and I'm not trying to discount that. I'm just saying for me, but also this has a 2-season board with those 2 cards. Although, to be fair, any human being could just flip over 2 cards. I want to do that.
I want to speak to that really quick. I like that. This is a nice kind of like a compromise rule of having a few cards face up, but not the visitors, which I think is a great touch because that would lead to slowing down the game.
I agree.
But a little more choice in the contracts, a little more choice in the grapevines that you can grow. I like this. I used to actually house rule Viticulture all the time. The Matthew Jude house rule, where every time you draw cards, you draw 1 extra and choose between them and discard one of them. I think this kind of replaces that for me a little bit. So if I'm playing with this, this is kind of my preferred market system for that.
What would you give it?
I'm giving this one a 9. I like Viticulture a lot. I think that this has more parts of it that hit for me and easier than the Tuscany expansion, kind of like you mentioned. But if you want Viticulture to be a crunchier game, Tuscany is still great because I love the special workers, I love the special buildings. But this is kind of a cleaner way to really step up Viticulture.
And you could do both. So you could have those special workers and buildings work with this, so that's not a problem.
Yeah, I appreciate that it's cross-compatible, but this is the shiny new thing. I know I'm very focused on it, but I think that the good news is I don't have to pick between the two, and I recommend both. And so I recommend this one just as much as I recommend Tuscany, even though it kind of gives less whiz-bang flashy modules. I think that the ones that are provided on here and kind of just baked into the board are excellent.
Once again, Stonemaier Games seems to constantly fiddle with their games so they get the perfect thing at the end. It's just something they do. Like it or don't like it, the end result. But with that in mind, I'm giving it a 10. for me, this is what I want. This is the expansion. I always play with it, which I don't say about almost any expansion really, but I'll always play with this. Like I said, I'll teach it to new players. It's so fun, and it doesn't add a lot of overhead, and it also adds so much asymmetry between the players, still leaving you with a lot of choices. Do you want to buy it takes away some of the stuff I thought was in the base game. I thought initially selling your fields seems like almost an auto first move.
Yes.
So just so you have some cash. Now you start with 2 fields already sold, so you did it. It's over. And that's such a big deal. Whether the game's Twilight Imperium, Ark Nova, Terraforming Mars, Bordeaux, or Viticulture, any game that lets you skip some of the first turns of a game to get to the really good turns.
Especially if they kind of wrote first actions, yeah.
So there you go. That is Bordeaux, the expansion for Viticulture. I'm Tom Vassell.
And I'm Chris Yee.
Bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.